Hello class, today I'm going to talk to you about printing your etched plates. So first of all, I got some watercolor paper. I tore it down to the same size as the plate, but you could also make it bigger if you wanted it to have like a nice big border. But for me, it wasn't possible to make it bigger because it's the same size. So it doesn't matter, it's up to you how big you want your paper to be. I also cut down some computer paper to show you how to do that because some of you might not be able to get watercolor paper, which is okay. You can use that. And then I also cut out a piece from this paper bag. Try that as well. So you might have some other paper around your house, like newspapers, construction paper, whatever kind of paper you have. The only thing I wouldn't use is magazines because it comes with like a coating, like a plastic coating on it, which wouldn't really take the ink or whatever you're using to print with very well. So next, talk to you a little bit about the watercolor paper. All right, there's a texture on it. Now one side's a little bit more textured than the other. It's quite subtle. But I found I liked the way it looked better if I printed on the smoother side. Now both sides have a texture, but one side is bumpier than the other. However, you might like the way the bumpy side looks, and that's totally fine. Now, with the watercolor paper, you have to soak it for a long time. So here I have a tray full of water, and I'm putting them in one at a time, and I want to make sure that the water covers the whole thing. If you just put it directly in, then the water wouldn't be able to get in between the sheets and they wouldn't be properly soaked through. So you want to make sure they're all wet. Now the other ones you will also want to get wet, but they only have to soak for like 20 seconds. Whereas this one, I'm going to leave this to sit in here for like 20 or 30 minutes. We'll see exactly how long it takes. But since it's so thick, it's going to need a lot of time for the water to really soak in nice and good. Alright students, I'm going to talk to you a bit about materials. So you don't have to have everything here. I'm going to show you a lot of different ways to print, and then you can decide which techniques to use based on what you have. Okay, so I'm going to try watercolor. This is graphite sticks, Cretacolor brand. In a little set like this. Also Cretacolor pastels. They're chalk pastels, not oil pastels. I tried using oil pastels and it didn't work. Just normal markers. These ones are from Daiso, and these ones are from All Print a Bookstore, which these places are probably closed up now, but you can definitely find some of this stuff hopefully in your house or maybe in a grocery store. Maybe someone in your family or you have a highlighter. This also works. Okay, so I have my paper soaking. It's been about 30 minutes. So we use our towel to blot our paper. We pull it out of the water. So this is the wet paper. Do you see how it's like soft and bendy now? And you're just blotting it so that it's damp but not dripping wet. You don't want it to be dripping and you don't want it to be shiny wet. You want it to just be damp. Okay, put it to the side. All right, we use this one, plexiglass one. I'm just gonna do a simple one to start. So I'm gonna open up my chalk pastel. So it's like that. It's kind of like Conte crayon, if you've ever used those. Okay. And I just go over the image. shake it off, blow it off. Okay. If you want, you can kind of erase with a brush to kind of give it like white spots. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so this is the less bumpy side. I'm going to put it down, and then I'm going to tape it because I don't want it to move. Okay, so you can use a spoon for this. This is a broken spoon I had, but you can find any kind of spoon, or like a wood cooking spoon can work too. And now you're just pressing. You want to press kind of hard, but you don't want it to move around, so you have to hold it with your other hand. And just go over everywhere where you know that the image is. Kind of peek at it to see how it's going. All right, let's see how it is. So am I missing any parts? Yeah, I'm missing a lot of the mustache. Okay, so I put it back down. And I focus on where the mustache is. Okay, still a little bit more, but I can see it's actually kind of missing some chalk there. So I'm just going to put a little more chalk on it. Okay, yeah. I think I want to make the eyebrows a little bushier as well. A little bit in those spots. Right. I do see one spot that's missing right there. Okay. Let's go over that. All right. Take off the tape. And there's your first print. Now, if we want to clean this off, we can just use a little bit of a damp paper towel to clean it off. Now, we want to make 4 prints from this, and we want them to be as different as possible, and we want to be as creative and experimental as possible. That's the goal here. Okay, so let's try something completely different. Let's try something on this one. Okay, I'm going to try using some markers. I'm just going over it with a marker right now. I want to get it off the nose because I want the nose to be like a different color, right? Okay, so I want the mustache to be black though. Okay. Let's make it orange. And then let's make a bunch of like little decorations, patterns. Let's just be kind of wild and crazy, right? Just experimental, free. We don't know what it's going to look like, and we're not worried about it. Okay, so I've done a lot of drawing with markers on this. Now I'm going to take a little bit of paper towel, but you can use a Q-tip also. I'm just kind of like erasing with it to see what that looks like. Just experimenting. Could use a brush to make kind of like brushy marks. Now speaking of brush, we're going to try to do also some watercolor on this. Okay, a little red, orangey color actually. You can add some like shading with it. So therefore you have a little bit of a shadow on the nose. And a little bit of water to blend it. Okay, now we're going to let this dry, okay? So I'll give it a few minutes and we'll come back to printing it when it's dry. Okay, so now our watercolor is dry and we're going to print this one on the lid. Now for this one, I'm going to print with computer paper just to show you what that process is like. So this is just normal computer paper and it doesn't need a whole long time to soak. In fact, it can just go in for a couple seconds and then come right out. Just like before, we want to blot it on a towel. Drop it in. We'll tape it too so it doesn't move. Okay, with our spoon, press the whole thing. You have to be a little bit more gentle with this paper because it's more likely that it'll rip, whereas the watercolor paper is stronger. Take a peek at it. Okay, I think that's going to look pretty good. All right, let's see. And that's what that looks like. As you can see in the spots where I was erasing, it's a little bit lighter there. Okay, so now I'm going to print a double layer on this print. So first I have to clean off my plate. So just a little bit of a damp paper towel. I can clean it all off. And then dry it. Okay, so for the second layer, I'm going to use the same chalk pastel that I used on the first one. Now, do you see that little circle there from the lid, I could just go in and wipe it out if I don't want it. Okay, this is the same paper as before. Peek. Okay, I think I need do a little bit more on the mustache. Okay. And there it is with 2 layers. Okay, let's try something else. Let's try this brown paper. So I'm putting that into the water. Just like the other paper, it doesn't need that long to go in, but we can leave it a little longer than the computer paper. Okay, now I'm going to use a graphite stick. And just rub it on it. I'll also show you, you can also use a pencil. So if you don't have anything that I'm showing you at home, you'll definitely have a pencil. At the very least. Okay, so let's try this one. This paper was only in the water for about 30 seconds. Take a look. Okay. All right, I can see that I'm missing a spot right here. So I'm going to focus on that spot. Okay, got it. Any other spots? I think the mustache could use a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to show you another one that's using oil paint. So if you have oil paint already, you can do this, but I would suggest you be outside for this, and then to use cooking oil and then soap and water to clean up your plate when you're done instead of paint thinner, because that's not good for you to breathe that in. Okay, so you just squeeze out a little bit of oil paint. It's just a little piece of paper, but I'm just using it to spread it all over the image. And then you just take it off. Okay. Now you're going to want to wipe it off so that it stays in the lines but comes off the surface. So you take a paper towel and you make a little pad with it by folding it so you get this like flat shape like a jellyfish and then a bumpy shape on the bottom. And then you lightly rub it in circles. And then when it gets too full, you want to find another spot. Okay. Now we'll dry our paper again. This time I'm going back to my watercolor paper. See? Just took it out of the tray. Blot it. Okay, so this side looks less bumpy to me, so I'm going to put it face side down. And let's get some new tape because the other tape might be losing its stickiness a little bit. Okay. Now, after doing this a couple times, you might start to wear down the lines. So a good idea would be to take your knife or your screw, whatever you use, and just kind of rough up the lines again. You know, take your screw and just get the lines textured again if they get to if they're worn down. All right, let's take a peek. Okay, so I can see I definitely missed a big spot right there. Let's get that again. It's better. I think I need to get the mustache a little better too. Okay. So I'll take a little bit of that paint from before and just kind of beef up the eyebrows and mustache. Okay, so to clean up, we're going to be very safe and use cooking oil. See, just this one's sunflower. Yeah, avoid paint thinner. It is not good for you. All right, now when I touch it, I can really feel that I'm losing some of the texture. So I'm just gonna go back over it. All right, sorry to make you listen to that. But it's a good idea to do that every once in a while. Otherwise, it's just gonna get too worn down. So now I'm gonna go over with a little bit of water. Get rid of some of the grease from the oil. All right. Okay, let's do some more of the chalk pastel, but let's do two different colors. Okay, and let's print it back on top of this one. Like, let's print it like upside down or something. Let's see what happens, or maybe to the side. Yeah, I'm gonna try it to the side. I think that might be more successful. So if this is still wet, you can print with it, but it's dried. So I have to dip it back in the water. So let me just show you what that would look like. So you just quickly dip it. All right, that's all you need because it's already been soaked before. Quick dip. Okay, let's blot it. Now, if you're gonna do this and you are using a nice towel, maybe you have to use a paper towel instead to blot it, right? But this towel, I've just decided, is my art towel. So it just depends what you have. If you have an old towel, great. If you don't, then use paper towels. Okay. So I put it down here and then just move it over to the side a little bit. Then I'll have maybe like a glitchy effect. Let's see how that goes. Let's take a look. Okay, see that I missed a spot. Okay, so I went back over it. So you might have to keep adding it until you get everything you want. All right. I think a little bit more on the mustache. Okay, That's a little crazy and experimental. So now I have 4 to work with that I'm going to make my final 4, because we'll be turning in 4 prints, and you can make more if you want. Obviously, you can always make more if you're having so much fun. Just keep going. But we want to make them a little bit more into like finished products. So now I'm going to, draw on them, paint on them, collage on them, whatever you want to do to them to make them look good. You could do whatever you want to them.
And here I've added shading to the nose. Here I've added color to the nose and also watercolor in the background. Here I've added shading with pencil in the background, and I also touched up the glasses to make them stronger and darker. This one I added black watercolor in the background and also inside the glasses.